So we'll be making 2 stops. The first will be a downtown Juneau drop. I believe you'll have about an hour to shop if you choose to do so before you need to head back to the ship. And of course, if you want to head directly back to the ship, just stay on the bus during that first stop, and I'll be heading back to the Bliss second. About quite a bit over the years is if the state of Alaska really pays people to live here. And the short answer is pretty much yes. We have something called the Permanent Fund, which was started back in 1975, and the basic premise is to collect some excess profits from the oil industry and reinvest it in this fund. And there's a dividend or a payout each year from the fund for Alaskan residents. The actual amount of the payout does vary from year to year, but it's commonly between $1,000 to $1,500. And there's just a few requirements in order to get that money. You have to have lived in the state for at least a full calendar year, and you state your intention to continue living here full time. And that's about it. So that amount that gets paid out in October is available per person. So let's say you had 5 people in your household. You can multiply whatever the amount is by 5. So that's one small perk of living in Alaska. As I mentioned, there are many different pros and cons. One other interesting financial aspect is we have no state income tax here in Alaska. So higher cost of living for sure, but there's a few little breaks we get with taxes and the permanent fund. In terms of our climate here, we are in the Tongass National Forest, which extends down the coast and into British Columbia, Canada, all the way down to Washington. And this forest is about 16 to 17 million acres. And it's classified as a temperate rainforest. Temperate meaning it doesn't get very hot. It stands in contrast to a tropical rainforest. So we're the largest temperate rainforest, and if we're looking at rainforests overall, we are the 2nd largest, coming in behind the Amazon. So naturally we get tons of rain. I believe we have about 80 sunny days per year on average. So for the rest of those days it's either cloudy, rainy, or snowy. Relatively speaking, the winter temperatures are somewhat mild here. Because we're so close to the ocean, it keeps things more balanced, but the average temperature here in January is about 25 degrees. And in the summer, depending on the cloud cover and whether or not it's raining, it can be anywhere from about 50 degrees to 75 degrees in the summertime. And we do enjoy those long Alaskan summer days. Right around the summer solstice, we get 18 hours of daylight here in Juneau. So it doesn't really get dark until 10 to 10:30 p.m. on those longest days. But of course, in the winter, it's the opposite. And on the shortest days, we only have about 6 hours of daylight. We're passing by some of Juneau's schools. On our left is one of our high schools. And there's one of our middle schools. And coming up on the left is one of our elementary schools. And you'll notice the fence around the elementary school there. That's put in place to protect the bears from the children. And coming up on our right, this is the one spot, if you wanted to get over to Douglas Island, you could walk, bike, or drive across the bridge here. Approaching the downtown area and the waterfront. We do have 5 cruise ship docks here in town. I believe last year was a record year for visitation in Juneau, with over 2 million visitors in 2023, and I believe we're expected to hit a similar number this year. Tourism is one of our largest industries. The biggest employer in Juneau is actually the government. Being the state capital, we do have a lot of state jobs here. Tourism is the second largest industry, and the third largest is commercial fishing. We do have the salmon runs coming through this area, so a lot of salmon fishing, halibut fishing during our summer months. Ahead of us, you can see the cable lines for the Mount Roberts Tramway. Now, for those of you who'd like to get off downtown, I'll be dropping you off in the parking lot of the tram. And in that same area, there are shuttle buses that run every 10 minutes or so to and from your cruise ship. So you'll want to take note of where those are, and when it's time for you to head back to your ship for all aboard, you can hop on one of those shuttles. I believe they charge going into town, but I'm pretty sure it's free to go from town back to the ship. So if you look to the left, behind this red building, there's a large concrete building there. That is the state office building, although locals will affectionately refer to it as the SOB. And if you want to catch a glimpse of the Capitol, we're passing through Main Street here. You're going to want to look to the left, up the street, and look for a brown brick building with some flags on the top. You can see it now on the left. And if you caught a glimpse of that, you have now seen the 50th most attractive Capitol building in the United States. Definitely doesn't look like what you would picture your typical Capitol to look like. But that building used to be the federal building when Alaska was still considered a territory. So when we became a state in 1959, rather than build a fancy new Capitol building, they remodeled that federal building. They put some pillars on the front of it and called it a day. So we work smarter, not harder, here in Juneau. So we'll be rounding the corner here as Egan Drive turns into Franklin Street. And this is your main downtown road. If you want to do some shopping, I would recommend just walking along this street, and of course following it back behind us. It continues up the hill, and there's a lot more going on up there. But as we drive along this stretch of road, see if you can find the jewelry store. There's only like 16 of them. You may also notice street signs on the left-hand side, and if you look closely, you'll see those indicate narrow stairways. There are some buildings back behind the main street here that are only accessible by walking up those stairs. And so, this is technically, those stairways are considered city streets. Alrighty folks, I was going to pull into this dock, but they have it blocked off. But I'll see if I can sneak into one of these parking stalls here. So this will be our downtown drop. And the blue buses you see directly ahead of us, those are your shuttles that go back to the ship. So you can just come back here and hop on one of those. And keep in mind your all aboard time. I believe it's 1 o'clock. Does that sound right? And for those of you getting off in town, you can hop off here. Alrighty folks, well I hope you enjoyed your brief time here in Juneau. Sounds like you'll be headed to Ketchikan later this week. There's a possibility I'll be seeing some of you there. In this early part of the season, sometimes they need to shuffle around staffing in different places, so I'll be flying to Ketchikan tomorrow. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your cruise. And safe travels. I'll just be pulling up into one of these tour lanes that we started our journey this morning from. And once again, once I place the step stool, we'll be good to unload.
Ito yung JOO-noh, warp sa JOO-noh. Napakaraming turista dito. Tsaka ito yung mga bus natin. Natin na mga pasahero. Tsaka ito yung natin. Ibang angle natin makukuha. Yan, may mga iba natin dyan.
We will head southeast from here to Gastineau Channel and then pretty straight for both our ferry to the end of the floor. That will hopefully take us all the way to the coast finish. We're aiming to pass the car into the bend a bit before the 5 o'clock this afternoon. The ice conditions changes on a daily basis in the doors to Alaska. And since doors of the ship safety is something of concern, today's ice conditions